Well, good morning or good afternoon. I'm not sure when you're watching this. I actually thought about saying good day, but that's more of like a British like goodbye.
Good
I
day,
thought.
sir.
So, yeah, good whatever to you. This is Jean Paul. I'm Royce. And we are going through chapter 2 in The Man in the Mirror. Fantastic book. And this chapter, he's talking about opposing worldviews. What were the worldviews called?
He talked about the Christian worldview versus a secularist worldview.
Okay, so I know a ton of guys, they're Christians. Is there really a difference?
That would be the crux of the question, right? I mean, there's plenty of us that say we're Christians, and yet, and this is part of what I drew out of this whole chapter, is we're using the same standards, right? Our same standards for just about any area in our life, the same
Right.
criteria for making decisions. And what he's pointing out in here is that if we claim to be Christians, if we claim to have a Christian worldview, we really should have some sort of different principles that we're using, that we're applying to the problems that we face.
So simplistically, where do we get those different our worldview? We could get it from the news, or we could actually take the time to find out what God says.
Yep.
And so I think that may be one of the biggest keys is actually taking the time to find out.
That's a huge key, and that was we were actually talking earlier this week, and I was pointing out that I love reading the chapters. I love getting new and good information. I've always thought throughout my life, just taking in the information was good enough. And he points out in here that an unexamined life just doesn't get you where you want to go.
So not just going and reading scriptures, but actually saying, okay, how does this now need to change how I'm making decisions,
Right.
or how I view the world, or what's appropriate, not appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, to use a food analogy, if I'm just shoveling food down my gut and it's passing right through me, it's not doing me any good until it actually gets chewed up, digested, and then absorbed into the body till my cells can make use of the nutrients that are there.
So we could either stop reading, basically stop feeding ourselves,
Right?
or actually take advantage of it.
Yeah, and so taking the time to go through the questions in the book are helping me to process more effectively the content that's in here. And as we're talking, I'm thinking of the thing I love to say, do we let the Bible get in the way of what we believe?
If you weren't going to go there, I was going to make you go there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool. And what's really neat about this, it's a really fantastic challenge to say, you want this. Every person has an ideal. Like, what is it in their brain that they're trying to get to, trying to accomplish? You have an idea of how you wanted your marriage to be, and then you went and got married and then found out maybe like, this isn't quite what I had in my mind. Why? So you have this ideal, life or whatever. Is what you're doing getting you there?
Right.
It's a really simple question, but definitely one that most people, I actually think, try to avoid because they know the answer already.
Well, look at all the pressures that we face. I mean, whether it's the huge amount of ideas that are out there on social media, or it's all the guys at work that are like, oh man, it's kind of classic peer pressure, right? This is what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Just coming through 2020, 2021, we got to see a lot of peer pressure going around, right? But, how often, no matter what area of our life it is, are we doing, like you're saying, stop, look at it, and determine, is this choice going to take me in the direction that I want to go?
Kind of reminds me of Dave Ramsey, actually, because he's like, all right, what is it that everybody wants? Well, you want to be financially free to do the things that you want to do, okay? Are the decisions that you're making taking you that direction? And you analyze and you're like, the new truck feels really good.
Right.
But is it taking me the direction that I want to go? So I'm taking good feelings now, and I'm basically exchanging them for what I could have in the future.
Yes. Yep. How's he put it? He says,
Live like no one else now so that you can live like no one else later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Similar concepts.
So real quick, I want to read just a little excerpt from the chapter, and then let's just take a look at the questions, because the questions are really they're awesome at making us
And
think.
we're not here to read it for you, so.
Right. But this was the piece that jumped out at me. It says, often confused about the differences between these two worldviews, Christian men frequently apply the wrong set of principles to their problems. We seem to have a fragmented understanding of how to live as Christian men. And I just remember the first time I read that I was thinking, boy, there are certain areas in my life where I absolutely have applied what I believe are biblical principles. But there are areas in my life where I've had certain goals, and they're turning out much like my neighbor who doesn't go to church, doesn't have a personal relationship with God. And I'm realizing as I step back, and I'm like, oh, that is a scenario in which I have applied, secular ideas to solve problems.
I think that's what's so fun about this is that it's real easy to sit back and go, I got that. I am a Christian, and I have, in general, I'm going the direction that I want to go. Well, let's apply it on a smaller scale to all of these little decisions. In this area of your life, are you actually going the direction you want to go? In this area of your life, well, no. All right, why?
Yeah. So, we've talked often finances, marriage, relationships with children, all these different areas. We may do okay in one area and have trouble in another.
So here's my general challenge. I think when we're talking about two opposing worldviews, I think you're going to get there if you are passionately pursuing Jesus. I think it does boil down to that simple. If you're passionately pursuing Jesus, as you're pursuing him, you're going to find these little areas that God's going to be like, hey, I want you to notice this. And you go, okay, I don't have to deal with everything, but I do have to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
And it's really simple, easy, baby steps. I think God's really good about not overwhelming us. We tend to overwhelm us. We want to, we want to fix all this. We want it done now. And here's my 12-step program, and this is how I'm just going to get there. And
right. It's like the difference between taking an educational course in the modern day versus being a part of like a medieval apprenticeship. Right. Yeah. God's just there. He's with you, and he's helping to guide you, helping to lead you, and he'll get you there. Right. Even if you aren't mentally going, oh, did I do step 1, step 2, step 3?
Yeah. But these questions are very good. So
check this out. So, number 1, what would you like on your tombstone to summarize your life? Number 2, which of your experiences and relationships do you think have had the greatest impact on how you think, speak, and act? In what ways have they influenced you for good? For bad? Number 3, of the 2 worldviews, what percentage of each are you? So as an example, 60% Christian worldview, 40% secular worldview. Describe your thinking that led you to your answer. Number 4, are you the kind of person who gives thought to the why questions of life? Or are you content with life as it is? What are some of the risks of leading an unexamined life? Number 5, there are 2 yous, the visible you that is known by others, and the real you that is known only by God. Agree or disagree? Explain your answer. Number 6, are you willing to allow God to show you yourself as you really are? What are some of the things you might find out about yourself?
Ouch.
Yeah, that was the one that hit me. And number 7, the secret of knowing something well is to keep looking at the fish, quote unquote.
Read the book.
What kind of commitment would you be willing to make to self-examination in terms of time and effort? Some good questions.
Well, I hope you have a good time wrestling with this, and we'll see you on chapter 3.